Okay, so welcome everyone. We're here at week 1 of the spring session of Metaphysics in the Bible. And today's topic is, you want to what? All right, and then the question for the day is, what does anointing mean to you? So we're going to talk a little bit about the anointing of the feet of Jesus. What does that really mean? What was the misinterpretations? What is the truth behind that? So we just went around the room and we talked about what everybody thought anointing was and how everybody's doing. It was so awesome to hear everybody's responses. It was great. And we're going to move along now. So quickly, what's happening in the sky? I took a snapshot of what's happening today at 3:33 p.m. So I want you to pay attention to this purple line right here, as we've talked about in other classes. This north and south node of the moon, which is the moon that does the Phoenix rising, the north node, which is over here towards the right-hand side, and the south node over here. And this is who's controlling the chart. Mercury had just recently come in and went retrograde. During my cleanse, Mercury, the ibis, the one that holds the memories in the waters. So all your memories are in the waters and is represented by Mercury. Mercury retrograde means there's something you need to learn about what waters were vibrated by you. Because remember, everything that happens to you is because of the vibration you left behind. So Mercury recently joined this side of controlling the chart. So there is Mercury, you, the sun, and Taurus. And of course, we have Lilith, temptations. This is all in Gemini now. The black moon, the moon which is currently in Gemini, right? Aligned with Ceres, the harvester. Remember, black moon is deep spiritual signs. So this is the midheaven I'm talking about, the MC. Okay, this is the midheaven. So when you see something aligned there, it's very interesting to note what the message is. And then, of course, really important is Hygeia, the goddess of cleanses. This is the caduceus, the medical industry, 100% related to cleanses. Kathy's cleanse, like we talked about in one of the astrology classes, Neptune going across her Hygeia and Hygeia going across in her natal chart is 100% doing cleanses. Hygeia is in retrograde in Libra. And remember, Libra is not only balance, it's weighing of the heart. Weighing of the heart as light as a feather. That's really important right now. So while we have this whole side of the chart by deep spiritual signs, temptations, the goddess of harvest, you and the ibis, your waters. So meaning as things present themselves to you, the vibrations of the waters you've left behind, are you wise enough to know that those are your vibrations and that you have to have a heart as light as a feather when those situations come to you? That's what's happening in the sky right now, very quickly. So moving on to anointing, what's in the Bible? What does it all mean? So in the book of John 12, Mary anoints Jesus' feet. We'll read this and then I'll give little discussions as we go along. 6 days before Passover, remember, Passover is a Phoenix rising. It's a true Easter. Jesus came to Bethany, home of Lazarus, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Lazarus and his sisters hosted a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was among those who joined him at the table. Then Mary took an extraordinary amount, almost 3/4 pound of a very expensive perfume made of nard. She anointed Jesus' feet with it, then wiped his feet dry with her hair. So what does this mean? Remember, this is not literal. These aren't literal stories of a literal person. It's a story of you. This is a story of you getting anointed. So you have to read between the lines. This is about becoming Christ conscious from Pisces to Aries. And that's where the Madonna is right now. She's moved from Pisces into Aries. She's in Aries, our head right now. And she will be only moving into Pisces very little next year and then staying in our head. And then we get the anointment stays. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So there is some things in the stars about the woman's hair. Alpheratz, which is a star in Pisces, the feet. Okay. There is something associated with Pegasus. And it was started talk about as being the woman's hair. So this is all misinterpretations of stars, star lore, Egyptian glyphs, and true meanings and misunderstandings of what's upon us. So Alpheratz is the star of the east. It's the navel of Pegasus, the horse, also the shared head of Andromeda, to which is the part of the woman's hair. So what does that mean? Nothing as far as the anointing of Jesus's feet. It has to do with Pisces and the least amount of love and us being anointed and Mother Mary coming from our feet going into our head to give us that anointing. In the book of Exodus, priestly garments, and thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother and his sons with him, and shall anoint them and consecrate them and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. Total misinterpretation. What's in the Bible is breadcrumbs, but you have to read between the lines. That's a misinterpretation. In the Old Testament Light by George Momish, oil is symbolic of light. In the olden days, oil was used to light the lamps in the temples and shrines. Light symbolizes God and law, and he gives a couple of excerpts. So he's talking about the temple. Get it? The temple. Now point to your head. The temple. That's where the oil goes. But it's not a physical oil. It's a love. It's a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness. Oil comes from the highest realms of the universe, the sun, which was worshipped as the god of nature. Remember, there's an essence. That essence is love, or what people like to call in the physical, the ether. Kings and priests were anointed so they may be able to lead and guide their people in times of need. Their commandments were to be a light to their subjects. That's totally misleading. That's holding idols. It's not a physical process. Nobody can be anointed physically to lead you. It's where you got to know that you're the chosen one, and somebody can't do it for you. It's a state of mind. Myrrh is an aromatic resin of sweet spices. It is used as an ingredient in holy anointing oil. It was also used for embalming. Again, that whole embalming process is a farce. It's a total misinterpretation, trying to hang on to the physical body, keep the body. They misinterpreted what's on the Egyptian walls, thinking that you have to save the body if you want to live in the afterlife or come back. It's total misunderstanding. We come back if we're not finished our karma. We go to light. We go to spirit if we accept the anointing, self-anointing. In the book of Isaiah 10, the remnant of Israel. Now remember, Israel is Isis, Ra, and El, Saturn. So you got Isis, the sun, you, and Saturn, father time. That's the split apart of Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day that this burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder, and his yoke off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. There's some truth. I show a picture here on the Dendra Zodiac where you see John the Baptist anointing the people who are in prison. See, that's us. We're yoked. We're yoked to this physical body during the Piscean age. As you can see, there's a fish there. Okay, he's removing, this is washing of the feet. This is cleansing of the feet, anointing of the body, of the waters, the spiritual waters. These are where all the misinterpretations come from. These beautiful glyphs that teach us of your own personal phoenix rising, your own anointing, your self-anointing, you allowing yourself to be anointed. So I got a few more that I'm going to go through. These are just, I looked them up. I mean, you all know this, but it's great to see what other people write. In ancient Egypt, the primal age of divine revelation, A number of ceremonies empower one to become an Ak and to arouse the Sekhem. That's like the Christ oil. This was achieved through the mystic unification, the Ba, the astral body, and the Ka, the etheric body, in a series of magical anointing that allows one to have openings before one's eyes, i.e., to awaken clairvoyant perception. The more and more you start paying attention to what's happening around you, the more you know you are the chosen one, and this is all about you, the more you'll see. Astrotheology, etymology, word meanings. Anointing was an ancient custom throughout the East by pouring aromatic oils on persons as a token of honor. It was also employed as unconsecrating priests, employed, I'm not sure if that's is proper, but consecrating priests, prophets, and kings in the places and instruments anointing for worship. That's totally misleading. It's a breadcrumb of a phoenix rising. There's nobody that's special that can get anointed. Priests, prophets, and kings, those are idols. It's idolatry. You can't think that way. It's not about somebody else. It's about you. And I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. In ancient Palestine tradition, it would seem kings, political and military chiefs, village heads, and in fact, any claimants to high office were anointed and hence called the anointed ones. Some, after anointing them, became called Lord. Again, that's misleading. That's somebody just trying to tell you, you need to idolize me. That's totally misleading. It's idols, idolatry. Don't go there. It's you this is about. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a papyrus of Ani, the story continues that Isis then wrapped the pillar with fine linen, anointed it with oil, and restored it to the queen. So they're reading into this on the Egyptian walls. The pillar is your Jacob's ladder, your spine, but the one that you can't see, the one that's between the two snakes, the white snake and the black snake. So you can see these Egyptian walls are painted. There's the pillar. There's Isis. There's Mary Magdalene. Okay, that's Eris and Juno. Isis, Nephthys. Virgin Mary, Mary Magdalene. That's these two queens, the two winged women of the sky. They've presented themselves to me on several occasions, and they will to you. You just got to want it. Not want it, but know it. Know that it's you. You're chosen. Egyptian Magic by Wallace Budge. And after a further anointing with oil and the placing of grains of myrrh and resin, the deceased is declared to have received his head. You can change that deceased to the living. Declared to have received his head. And he has promised that it shall never more depart from him. In other words, when you get that anointment, when you get that lifting of the veil, when you get that knowing, it never leaves you again. You don't come back and start over again. On the conclusion of the ceremonies, which concern the head, the deceased has the power to go in among the holy and perfect spirits. The only problem is this is not about the book of the dead. It's about the book of the living. It's about you now. Where they're getting that kind of thing from is look at the Dendrozodiac, right? The headless one at 0 point Aries, and the all-seeing eye, the third eye, which you can see, here's Pisces. So Aries and Pisces. Don't forget the Madonna is coming this way from Pisces into Aries, her head. And when she comes in for that Phoenix rising, this is the anointing portion. So it's for everyone, every single one of us. So when you know that, you get to have it and it never goes away. This is the source of the misinterpretations, the Phoenix rising that each and every one of us gets to have. Oracle of the Illuminati by William Henry. One answer comes from the Egyptian term for crocodile, Messias, Remember, the crocodile is sitting there at the weighing of the heart ceremony, ready to eat your heart if it's not as light as a feather, which is the root for the Hebrew term Messiah, the perfect man, woman. As Lawrence Gardner pointed out, it is from the word meseh that the Hebrew stem MSSH derived. When vowels are added to this stem, it forms a verb mashiach, to anoint, and the noun Messiah, which means anointed one, i.e. Christ, Christos, Messiah, who comes from the Maker. Jesus achieved this status only after being anointed by Mary Magdalene, the woman who knew the all and the anointing oil. Don't forget, this is a state of being, a state of mind. You will have apparitions that will remind you of this to show you that this is for real. But again, these are the things they're seeing. This is you in embodiment while you're alive. There's Isis at the head. There's Mary Magdalene at the feet. Mary Magdalene, the feet, anointing the head. This is the source of the misinterpretations of what happens to you during a phoenix rising. I'll keep saying it over and over again because it's about you. Start knowing that you are the chosen one. Who is this King of Glory? Another meaning of mess in Egyptian is to sprinkle or to anoint. Through this etymology, the word comes to have secondary meaning, the anointed God. Anointing with oil was throughout ancient days a ritualistic typing of the more abstruse meaning of a baptism of the lower nature by the higher divine influence. It carried the idea of pouring on the head of a man a substance that could be set on fire. Oil goes to fire, right? Creates light. The key is to be found in John the Baptist's statement, while he, the preparer of the way for a higher influx, baptizes us with water. We're going into the age of Aquarius. It's not a physical thing. Type of the life of the natural order, the more exalted one. Coming after him is to baptize us with air, Latin, spiritus, and with fire. Oil symbolically is higher than water for the reason that it always rises to the top of water. And besides is the fuel for fire, which water is not. It is a substitute symbol for fire itself, being its fuel and giving a bright and shining appearance. So then Messiah as anointed God was the Christos, coming to earth to be gradually reborn into his next stage of expanded life and consciousness through a baptism or anointing with the oil of divine gladness. The anointing facet of the meaning allies the term Messiah with the Greek name of Christos. So again, you see all these people telling you the same thing, but remember, it's not a physical thing. It's a metaphysical thing. So what do I do? What do you do? It's great hearing beautifully written in Corinthians 13. Love, the universal spiritual gift. If I speak in tongues of human beings and of angels, but I don't have love, I'm a clanging gong or clashing cymbal. If I have a gift of prophecy and I know all the mysteries and everything else, and I have such complete faith that I can move mountains, but I don't have love, I'm nothing. If I give away everything that I have and hand over my own body to feel good about what I've done, but I don't have love, I receive no benefit whatsoever. Love is patient, love is kind, it isn't jealous, it doesn't brag, it isn't arrogant, it isn't rude, it doesn't seek its own advantage, it isn't irritable, it doesn't keep a record of complaints, it isn't happy with injustice, but is happy with the truth. Love puts up with all things, trusts in all things, hopes for all things, endures all things. Love never fails. As for prophecies, they will be brought to an end. As for tongues, they will stop. As for knowledge, will be brought to an end. We know in part and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, what is partial will be brought to an end. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, reason like a child, think like a child. But now that I've become a man, I put an end to childish things. Now we see a reflection in a mirror. then we will see face to face. Now I know partially, but then I will know completely in the same way that I have been completely known. Now faith, hope, and love remain, these three things, and the greatest of these is love. So you can see the message is, no matter what you do, if you don't have a heart as light as a feather, it ain't going to work. We've talked about this before. This is also in the book. You can see in the domain of Horus, this is the pillar, okay, which was represented between the two hands. Is the feminine, the divine feminine in the blue, the masculine in the red. You can see the divine feminine has the feet together. It's not moving. And the man is moving his feet. The feet is why it needs to be anointed, because we have to think about walking versus stillness, desire versus love, materialism versus spirit. Remember, Pisces is the lack of love age. And now we come to this realization. We are leaving Piscean age, going into Aquarius, being baptized. But during that process, the mother of all mothers is in our head, anointing our third eye, giving us that, removing that veil, that blindness of love. From the divine province, still on what do I do? How do you functionally expand the brain and open the doors to the divine mind? It is not done to one illuminating flash realization. It's not a one-step divine anointing. The sacred pathway to what you may term enlightenment is achieved in deliberate steps. There are many in metaphysics that want to open the book of knowledge and skip over to the final chapter. It doesn't work that way. It begins with self-exploration by carefully auditing what works and what doesn't work for you. In this method, you allow fresh and expansive ideas to enter the brain from the divine mind as high-frequency thought. Then you process and contemplate it, experience a new concept by embracing it, acting it out, evolve it, and drive it with emotion, and live the new information into knowledge and wisdom. So that's very well put, but your guide is the weighing of the heart ceremony. Again, the ibis, your waters, your vibrations. There's a record in all the waters of what you left behind. The crocodile, alligator, whatever you want to call it, sitting there waiting to eat your heart if it's not as light as a feather. So you come back again and try again. And there's Anubis. This is Pluto. This is your dad holding your hand. As you can see, the feet are apart. And here you have Isis. This is all part of the anointing. This is all part of the misinterpretations from thousands of years old that come to present us with idols, kings and prophets and popes and bishops. Don't idolize them. You're the chosen one, not them. Love them. They're your brothers and sisters who are seeking love and truth. They don't know it. This is the truth. I just brought a couple more of these in, just showing you sources of misinterpretation of anointings. They're showing you the metaphysical change, not the physical one. And I added this for those who may be new today, but there's not any. If you want to learn more, the book of all the stuff we've gathered together, Our Journey as Arahant, is on iyoutome.com/Arahant. So remember, anointing is all about you and your self-anointing and allowing this to happen to you, because it's happening in the sky and it's waiting for you to embrace it. And to open it up is to open up your heart to love and everything that's around you that is for you. So we'll leave it at that. I'll stop sharing the screen.